Good day. Welcome to the Trendy Place. This is the Trend Podcast with Justin A.Williams, and I'm here to bring you content from all across the spectrum. Today is no different. I am with Peter McLaughlin, and he is going to talk to us a little bit about his business, hypnosis, but also we're going to actually be able to get into something that's in my field, which is a little bit about myth, right? Like, what can you uncover about the myths that we make in our subconscious ourselves through hypnosis, and how can we tell better stories, but also be a better story for ourselves? So, Peter, great to meet you.
It's great to meet you too. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, of course. So, give us a little bit about your background, your history in terms of what you do, and how maybe that's relevant to the audience. My audience is particularly millennials to about boomers, and we usually discuss trends in the country. So, we've talked about martial arts, we've talked about economics, politics, the whole gamut. So I'm really interested in talking to you about hypnosis because we've never talked about that before.
Okay. I guess the first thing that I'd like to say is to come at this in reverse order and say the relevance is that the mind is at the root of everything.
Mm.
And when you talk about health, how can you extricate your mental state, which controls essentially your emotional state and the functions of your body from the actual health of your body?
Mm.
Like everybody will say, every doctor would say that mind and body are connected, that stress will kill you, but they won't necessarily practice that way. So that's healthcare, right? And then politics. I mean, it's filled with the mind, and specifically politicians and political advisors attempting to manipulate or control the mind of people, because you can't control 330 million people with a tiny, tiny number of elite or a tiny, tiny number of police or whatever. So control of the mind has been something that governments have been interested in forever.
Very true. I hear the word batting around called a psyop. I don't know if you've ever heard that,
Yep.
but
Psychological operation.
right,
That's
right.
right. This is, and this has been going on forever.
Mm.
That even Hitler was using principles that we might call hypnotic language patterns.
Okay.
So it was like one people, one nation, one Führer. So it's a three. Three is key when you're trying to deliver something. And then he was linking the idea of a dictator, one Führer, with the idea of one nation, with the idea of one people. And you could almost consider this a yes set. If you get someone to say, hey, do you agree that the earth is round? Yeah. Do you agree that water is wet? Yes. Do you agree that human beings can jump if they're not impaired? Yes. Well, then it's easy for you to understand how quickly and easily you could go into hypnosis. That's considered a yes set. The last thing I said has nothing to do with the first three, but you're getting the mind to say yes, 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 yes. And
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
something within the military called fifth generation warfare. And that's moving away from strictly a focus on kinetic warfare and moving into the battlefield of the mind.
Wow.
So this is where you would find things like psyop. And a psyop could be waged on your own population. It could be waged on the target or enemy population. And this has been done since time immemorial. Even Sun Tzu, who wrote The Art of War, it's the earliest treatise on war, and it's still read by military people and by business people, talked about how if you're strong, appear weak. If you're weak, appear strong. And a host of other dictums that were all involved with the mind of your enemy.
Right, right, right. Yeah, that's very true. I had a the people on the podcast know I had a father who was very interested in Eastern traditions. I spent my formative years when I was young in a Buddhist temple from the age of 10 to the age of 21.
Wow.
Yeah, I would go on the weekends or anytime I could during the week here in New York City, USA Shaolin Temple. And I did read a lot of Sun Tzu, read a lot of Buddhist texts. And, they always talk about the kind of certain philosophies that are from the state. So let's say Roman, right? The Romans would be famous at taking different religions that were organic, Gnosticism, worship of Isis, Osiris, whatever, Mithraism, and reifying them so that they came up with state propaganda, right? The Romans were really the first ones to do satire. The Romans are really the first ones to really get people to be ruled by how you think. And this acquisition of the intellectual, the philosopher, as a statesman that can convince the people, a useful tool that way, is not only revolutionary for the Romans, but it continues on today. That blueprint has been, there's a reason why, like you said, the Nazis use a lot of Roman propaganda, a lot of imagery, right? If you look at the United States, we still have the eagle or the
eagle
with the bundle of arrows.
Yep.
Right. That's
the fascia. That's a fascia of sticks.
Yeah, we call the fascia. Yeah.
Yeah, so, which is where fascist comes from. That word fascist. Yeah.
So symbolism is so tied to myth and what I do. And symbolism really lives in the mind. There is what Joseph Campbell would say, and maybe refer to Jung as saying, the collective unconscious.
Yes.
So as a hypnotist, you must encounter people who talk in these archetypal terms. They don't necessarily have to be saying, I think Zeus wants this for me and Odin wants this for me. But what they might be saying is that I have this deep passion for something. I have this deep love for something. I have this deep hate of something, right? And when you look at those archetypes, for me, it's like, oh, that's discord coming out, right? That's Aphrodite coming out. That's whatever you want to call it, whatever they're doing. Those gods of the ancient world really are within us as passions. And it's no different than in some religions, they say, like, God is within. Buddhism, look within, all those kind of things. So as a hypnotist, I'm sure you encounter that on a maybe daily basis.
Oh, sure. And I would utilize it perhaps on a daily basis, even with myself. And I'm translating what you're saying into my language so I can make sense of it. And the first definition in this internal translation comes out as neuro-linguistic programming, parts therapy. So NLP says that we are made up of a constellation of parts. We even use this in our language. We say part of me likes that person, part of me doesn't. Part of me wants to take the job, part of me doesn't. And so we utilize that to our advantage, and we speak to different parts of a person, like a blocking part, for example, the part that is fearful. And we negotiate with that blocking or fearful part so that the person can move forward in their life and do what they want to do without trying to squash the blocking part or without succumbing to it. And in that way, I can almost hear something that is similar, these energies, like maybe it's a Christ energy, or maybe it's the energy, if you're an ancient person, as you said, of Odin or Thor or Apollo or Zeus or something like that. It's a way maybe of classifying different kinds of energies and maybe even different parts of us. So that's my translation of that. And yes, use it all the time.
Now, hypnosis, is that, some people might say, how is that even possible, right? Like, how do you get me into a state where I am suggestible, right? And I think, obviously, we've already opened the conversation of talking about how, in a macro level, society can be very suggestible once you start controlling certain narratives and things that they're interacting with. But on an individual level, how resistant are people to the skill of hypnosis?
Okay, the first thing I want to say is I want to back it out to the macro, and then I'll come right into the micro, is there's a reason why corporations for decades and decades and decades have spent billions and billions and billions of dollars on advertising. Because the advertising can induce people to do things that they otherwise wouldn't do. Namely, they can induce them to buy certain things that they wouldn't otherwise buy. I mean, Nike just uses a swoosh. Like, why should that make you want to buy something?
Right.
Advertising started out like, oh, we've got the thickest sole on this shoe, and it's the most comfortable thing you've ever worn, and it's constructed by this kind of leather. And now it's mostly just emotional advertising. So I start with that part. And we have, I forget what the normalcy bias is within us, but we think that other people are suggestible, but we're not, which really works very well in the favor of the kind of grand hypnotists, which would be the advertisers, whether they're advertising for commercial reasons or they're advertising for political reasons. Because when we have a war, there's a whole PR piece that goes along with it. right? And our history books, everything is geared around the functioning of society. And if people are interested in learning more about this, look up a man named Edward Bernays, Bernays, the father of modern public relations, who said that this guy was, I thought he was kind of sinister and evil, but he was genius. And he said to have a functioning democracy, you have to have a small cadre of intelligent men pulling the strings behind the scenes, so the people think that they're making the decisions, but they're really not. It's this small group of men, he said, who are actually making the decisions. So to move down to the micro of your question, the first thing that for people to understand is, what is hypnosis? Most people think they know what it is because they've been saturated with the concepts of hypnosis, hypnotize, and mesmerize since they were little children in popular culture. Everything from comic books to movies to TV shows to the lyrics of popular songs, and on and on and on. And in that entertainment vein, it implies that one person, hypnotist, is in control of other person, subject, who is in a catatonic sleep-like state. They do whatever they're told and they don't remember anything. That's the entertainment version. And you cannot achieve that with every person. It's a tiny fraction of the population that you can make that happen with. And that's why at a stage show, the hypnotists, the first thing they do is they test the audience. And they say, those who pass the test come up on stage. And then they give them more tests. And they're really only looking for between 1 and 3 people. Once they have their 1 to 3 people, they got their show.
Right. Yeah.
Hypnosis is a range of experiences. It's like saying automobile. I don't know if you're talking about a 2-door sports car or if you're talking about an 18-wheeler. They're all automobiles.
Right.
And everything in between. And every human being goes in and out of hypnosis all the time. They just don't know that that's what it is because they think it's supposed to be this catatonic sleep-like state.
Right.
So if you're driving your car and you pull into your driveway and you can't remember driving the last 20 minutes, that's because you were in hypnosis. If you're working in your yard and you come in and wash your hands and you find that you've got a cut on the back of your hands, but you didn't know how you got it, that's because you were in hypnosis. If you're playing a sport and you take a shower 2 days later and you've got a huge bruise on your leg and you don't remember getting it, didn't feel the pain, it's because you were in hypnosis. And all it means is that you moved into such an intense state of focused application of your mind that everything outside that tight window of focus, it's like it didn't happen. Driving, sports, working in the yard, even watching TV. You know, people can watch TV and somebody calls their name, they don't answer them. They call their name again, they still don't answer. They call their name a third time and they say, huh, what? I'm sorry. Because the voice of that person was outside that tight diameter of focus. That's what hypnosis is. And when you're in that state, part of your mind lights up that was formerly dark, and part of your mind goes dark that was formerly lit up, and you become essentially like a child. You enter a state of hyper learning.
Wow, that's very interesting. I've never really I've never really considered it in that way. I mean, like the way you broke it down micro and macro is very interesting. And I think that the possibilities for a person to maybe escape that matrix, right? Like the hypnotic matrix, it could be through hypnosis too, right? That like hypnosis can be a tool for good as well as a tool that obviously can increase harm and irreparable damage to people. It's all about, and like anything, it's like a hammer, right? It can be used to build.
Exactly.
And I think for me, in the lens of like when I talk about myth or characters or symbolism, archetypes, this is my freedom, right? Because I felt hypnotized by a plethora of different ways of being a man when I was growing up. And you know, you get to that breaking point of an awakening, and then the awakening is tough, and you're getting out of that, and then you start to think of, okay, well, yeah, you know what? There are times where I feel like I tripped on something and I didn't remember, or even when you have a dream, right? Like when you have a dream, that is a state of hypnosis too, because you are first in there, you are highly suggestible, and when you're in that position, you're believing everything you see. right? Like I had a dream last night. There's a show called From. I don't know if you know this show From. It's
No.
on. It's a great show. It's on Paramount, and it is this show that talks about like these characters. They see this raven and a tree fall, very Nordic in myth, and they enter the town. When they enter the town, immediately people are like, "Yo, stop, 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 stop! Come to the house or where there's safety." Now, of course, with like hypnosis, right? This is how you get into the liminal, right? Some people believe and they go right in. They're very suggestible to go around the house. Some people, unfortunately, are skeptical and say, "Why would I? This is a normal town. Why are they panicking?" Then at night, these former humans in human form, dressed up like a 1950s dairyman, very kind of welcoming 1950s kind of look, but they are very, very dark characters. And if you don't escape to a house with a talisman, you're gonna get hurt. You're gonna die probably. So it is a show that at first you're like, wow, there's no hope here. They don't know how to escape. They don't know the context. And I think that's what's so fascinating about not only TV shows but dreams is you eventually you don't wake up until you understand the context, right? And you don't understand that you're in a dream until you start really thinking for yourself. And life is like that. And I think the times that I've come out of my periods of whether I was obsessed with a thing like doing well in school or I was in love with someone, these are still states of the mind being highly suggested to. And to get over heartache, to get over trauma, to get over all these things, you have to make that break. So I think hypnosis, the times that I've done it, have been remarkably helpful. And I would say this to the audience in terms of getting out of that state. And hypnosis for me, when they did it, they were not trying to necessarily get me to just be unconscious and just follow along like a pet. They were trying to get me to really understand what was the root of that was going on, and then find a new totem to get over it, if that makes sense.
I didn't understand. I understood everything except a new totem. That sounds
Okay,
more like
so
your language of myth.
a totem is
It's just like a stand-in, right?
yeah. As totem is a totem is a thing where I had to look it up in my notes. A totem is basically similar to something I used when I was teaching students, which is that it's a deep-seated symbol or thing or person that has a lot of meaning for you. To anyone else, it's mundane, it's meaningless, but to you specifically, it has a lot of meaning and synergy. When you get to the position of how do you use that totem, you have to expand the totem so that it is a representative of your shadow. It challenges you, it welcomes you at the same time, and it pushes you to be a better you. You could say like the Joker is the Batman's totem, right? You could also
Yeah.
say the totem is the bats itself, the cave he got lost in, the death of his parents. These are totems. They're formative things or moments or milestones. So I think when we think about hypnosis, right, the times that I've been hypnotized, they went to find my totem. They say, okay, what animals do you like? What moves you? What motivates you? What symbols did you play with as a kid? And for me, it was a wolf. When I was scared at night or a kid, I would imagine a big bad wolf coming to my room and helping me with ghosts or helping me with. I had this weird dream where like sharks were flying around in my room. Like it was the wolf was a symbol of protection for me, and my hypnotist used that to get me to go from my anxiety.
Yeah.
Right. That like think of the calmness of the wolf, think of the steadiness of the wolf, become the wolf in that way,
Yep.
so that you are invincible to whatever is really your ills.
Yeah. And something important for your audience to understand is that the anxiety is not coming from your conscious mind generally.
Right.
It's almost always 99 point something coming from your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind has a different language than your conscious mind does.
Right.
And when you seek to alter the subconscious mind, it's very important to understand how it communicates.
Mm.
So symbols and images are way more important to the subconscious mind than words.
Mm.
Words are important, but a word really just gets transformed within the mind into a symbol, into an object or a picture. Like if I say giraffe, the only way you can make sense out of it is to have a flash of what a giraffe looks like in your mind.
Right. Yeah.
So communicating the subconscious mind.
You have to have experienced the thing to be a totem. Like you can't just say something that you've only heard of in rumor or you don't really know can be that thing.
Right. So I think myth and hypnosis and other kinds of story, along with what you said earlier, symbols, are more effective and efficient ways of communicating with the subconscious mind because it's closer to the emotion.
Right. Yeah.
It tells more of a story faster. You don't have to translate from the sounds of a word into an image and from the image into, say, a feeling. You can get there faster.
And what is that like, that kind of speed do? Like when you're doing hypnosis, right? Do you need a certain tempo? Do you need a certain speed? Is it better to go slowly with the person? Is it a case by case basis, right? Like, do you have to do like an intake with the person to really understand how to get them suggestible, and then it's effective?
So I don't worry so much about the act of hypnotizing. I believe it takes care of itself if the groundwork has been properly laid. Right. So if you don't feel comfortable with me, if you think hypnosis is me controlling you and making you do something you don't want to do, then we haven't created a beneficial foundation for this to succeed. If, on the other hand, you feel comfortable with me, you feel comfortable with the concept of hypnosis and how we're going to use it, maybe even the examples I gave before of how I go in and out of it anyway. I didn't know that, really? Okay. Then people it's very easy for them to go to that state because, remember, it's a natural state. Right. When you're driving your car and you go into hypnosis, I'm not sitting there. No other hypnotist is sitting there. Right. Playing all those examples I gave. So I spend less time thinking about the actual state itself and rather what we do inside of the state. And what I know, one of the laws about the subconscious mind, I was talking about how it communicates. One of the laws of the subconscious is that it doesn't have a sense of time. Everything is now.
Everything is now.
So when somebody says to you, hey, there's nothing you can do about that. It's in the past. You just have to move on. They're being very earnest. I understand why they say that, but that's a conscious, the smallest 5 to 7% of your brain part of you understands that. That makes sense to the conscious mind. It makes zero sense to the subconscious. Right. And the reason why people have PTSD and they're still freaking out when they get triggered decades later is because of this fact. What it also means is that this concept of time travel is something we do all the time. If I had you close, if I had, just close your eyes for a second.
Okay.
And go to your childhood room.
Okay.
I want you to imagine that you are a child again in that room and you're maybe cuddled up in your bed or you're playing on the floor with toys or something. And just notice that feeling inside of your body of what it's like to be in your childhood room again on a good day, having a good experience as a child. And open your eyes. Did you have that experience? Were you able to imagine yourself in that room?
Yeah, I could see it.
As a child?
Yeah, I could see it from those eyes too.
And were you playing in the room or were you cuddled up in bed or something?
Yeah, when you told me to go into the bed, I was in the bed, but then I kept like kind of escaping that and going to the window. Okay,
so you just time traveled.
Okay.
In my vernacular.
Right.
Because your subconscious mind has no sense. It's just like going to a different room in a house. It's not like going to a different time period, the way we think of it consciously.
Right, right.
You know, you weren't going back to the whatever, I don't know how old you are, but you weren't going back to like the 1980s or something,
No.
you know, in a conscious sense. But in a subconscious sense, you absolutely were. And you did it like that. And I didn't have to hypnotize you. And the act of doing that, if it was held long enough, your brain waves would change and you'd be in hypnosis. That's how easy it is.
Okay. I think that
you don't have to do a certain amount of hocus pocus.
Right. That's the misnomer of it.
You don't have to. That's not happening when you're driving your car.
No.
It's not happening when you're working in your yard or you're playing sports.
Now, do you think that the fact that hypnosis is really happening to us all the time in some way, in the larger sense, do you think that makes it your job harder or easier?
Easier, much easier.
Much easier.
If people can make the connection.
Connection, yeah.
And this is going to sound pedantic, and I apologize for that, but I think it's important to point it out. It's not happening to us.
Okay. So
it's happening. It's happening, you know, any more than your digestion is happening to you. It's an intrinsic function of your body.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Now, there can be times when we decide to focus on it and use it for a specific purpose. But even then, in that case, I would say it's happening for you.
Right.
If someone's wielding these techniques against you, then I would say then that is happening to you. So if you're being persuaded to buy some fast food that you otherwise wouldn't buy, in a sense, it's happening to you. If you're buying a pair of $300 yoga pants at Lululemon because you walked in there and there was this beautiful scent in the air and there was this music that moves you from your left hemisphere, the rational part, to the right hemisphere that isn't really focused on how much does this cost and how much is in my bank account, that's kind of happening to you in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you're agreeing on some level to participate in that experience because the experience is more than just buying a pair of $300 yoga pants. It's that feeling you get when you're in there. And then maybe that feeling gets transferred to the pants when you put them on and you like the feeling. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm. Do you think this can help us better understand each other as in relationships? So I'm sure you get a lot of couples, right? Like maybe, you know, people who are, or maybe lonely individuals, or maybe I don't want to say lonely, but single individuals who say, I'm looking to find someone to spend my life with. And I want to know the keys to really being a good person in a relationship, right? From what I'm hearing, it's like hypnosis can be used to help you really consider, okay, you got a feeling. The feeling can be like what they taught me, it'd be like a ball, you're holding it. It doesn't have to take over you. You make that choice of how to use it. Right. But that's some high level jujitsu. It's some high level meditation stuff. How you know, is there like an onboarding process for this? You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah, I know what you're saying. So I would say in general, coming from, you know, broad to specific, in general, it's a block in general that prevents human beings from having the experiences they want to have. It's some internal block, a belief that it's dangerous or a belief that they are not worthy or some kind of pattern running, a familiarity pattern that's running. And they tend to step into that pattern over and over again. And that could be combined with a belief like, this is what I deserve. I don't deserve more. I'm talking subconscious, not conscious mind.
Right.
So I love the whole concept of relationships with this work. And my take on working with people in relationship is to work primarily with the individuals. Like and I'm just spitballing this, but I'm going to say for me anyway, about 20% of the work would be with the couples. Like how do they communicate with each other? What are the strategies and tactics, which is probably 100% of most couples counseling. For me, the 80% is with the individuals. It focuses primarily on the baggage that each one of them brought into this relationship before they met each other. And when they get into a conflict, it's almost always happening because I pushed her buttons and she pushed mine. What are the buttons? They're triggers of old stuff,
Right.
traumas.
Right.
And you see people, there was a book written, Smart Women, Stupid Choices. It was something like that. I don't know when it was written, but it was, that title is just in my head. And it implied that these women kept making bad decisions with men, that they kept choosing men that were bad for them. And in some cases, the same woman might choose 2, 3, 4, 5. Men do it too, but this was just the title of the book. And I say it has nothing to do with smart.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the subconscious. The subconscious has no concept of time. Mm-hmm. And if they had gotten this belief that they were not worthy of a happy, stable, calm, loving relationship as a result of some trauma they suffered as a child, it has nothing to do with smart or stupid.
Right.
If in trying to protect themselves from something that happened in the past, they are pushing people away, that's not stupid either. It's a defensive response coming from this part of you that loves you so much. All it cares about is protecting you, but it's often out of date. It's still operating on a threat that no longer exists. Mm. Again, it's not stupid. There's nothing wrong with the part other than it just needs to be updated. So a huge part of my work is finding the blocks, finding the obstacles that were created as a result of a trauma, reversing the trauma in their mind, because we can time travel just like you and I did, going back to your childhood room.
Look what we just did live for the audience. Yeah, yeah. Right? What's interesting, I think is interesting. I'm a big comic book fan. There's a Professor X routinely does this in these movies where the graphics will show that he's going to someone's mind, and then these little blocks, these little schemas of like a memory and this and that or belief system. And he's able to like move them around and shift them in a order or disorder or however he wants the effect to happen, right? And I think that for me, people have always said that I'm a little silver-tongued as a Libra. I'm able to kind of charm some things myself out of or into some situations. For me, the reason why I've gotten to the point where I think I can be a persuasive person, I need to in my business, I do fundraising and grant writing outside of this, is because I need to be able to make a pitch to someone on why me in 30 seconds. And pressure, right? Pressure makes diamonds. But not only pressure, it's that just like you, I'm feeling the vibe of the person I'm talking to. I'm trying to get them, like in hypnosis, to a state of, I guess, suggestibility. And then I can talk to them. Now, this is an everyday skill. So I think hypnosis, like if I had a high school class right now, I would invite you to give a lesson to my students. Because I'd say, what is the value of learning how to be a suggesting person and the value of being a suggestible person in life? Too many times I'm seeing in Gen Z and Gen Alpha, this sense of like closed offness, this sense of the world is a hard place, which it is. And I'm going to have this shell on all the time. And I remember when I was doing my hypnosis work with two great people down in New Jersey, they were like, we got to crack that open because there's going to be health defects from that, right? Like we were talking about before we even started talking, the connection between the mind and the body, right? Like how serotonin is made in the stomach. Serotonin is a main thing for the mind. We want to unpack how hypnosis can help us on our health ways too, like losing weight or anything that we need to do for our health. Can you address that a little bit?
Sure. I have a YouTube channel called BlueSky Hypnosis, and it's got 250 plus pieces of content, most of which are designed for people to utilize themselves at no cost. And it just so happens that the most popular category of that content is weight loss. Currently, there are 3 videos on there that all have in excess of 1 million views, ranging from 1 million to 3.5 million. And it gives me this really interesting insight of the people who comment, which is a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of people who watch YouTube videos. But this huge number of people, not everybody, but this huge number of people who say, "Oh my God, I just pressed play," and this is mostly on the really popular ones, subliminal tracks, meaning sub-audible. The only thing they consciously hear is the sound of waves or rain. The suggestions are underneath that, or better yet, masked by it. Right? And it's still having this profound impact where these people are dropping all this weight. There was one person that commented, and she said that she lost something like 42 pounds, and over the period of time in which she lost 42 pounds, her husband lost 12, and he didn't even know what she was doing. He thought she was just playing, the sound of waves.
Right.
So weight loss is a very complex subject.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to say that the beginning and end of it is always just hypnosis. I believe that there are other pillars of that. I've created a program actually around it where it involves what you eat and when you eat. It involves the light that's coming in your eyes, sleeping on time, hydrating. Like there's all of these different categories. But one of them is your identity. One of them can have to do with your relationships. There's a reason why, if most of your friends and family are overweight, you will be overweight. Because as humans, we're herd animals. We're more like dogs than we're like cats. People they say they want to be rich and famous, but when it comes right down to it, not really. That means being the tall poppy. And if you're the tall poppy, you're the one that gets cut off.
Right.
People don't want to lose their friendships. They don't want people focusing on them, usually. There's a reason why fear, public speaking is the greatest fear in our culture. Yeah. So if they have a subconscious need to mingle and fit in with the pack, and the pack is significantly overweight, how are they going to be successful?
Right.
You'd have to deal with that. If their identity was that of a heavy person, you'd have to deal with that, for example.
Right.
If they were carrying the weight as a kind of armor or barrier from the world, in other words, the subconscious decides, yeah, you're not going to get attacked if you're 70 pounds overweight. Then how does that person actually lose weight unless they can dismantle the fear?
Right.
For example, if the fear is no longer relevant, this is something that happened decades ago. If that fear can be dismantled, then the subconscious will allow them to lose the weight. Because again, to me, it's about the blocks, the obstacles.
That's fascinating.
We're such creative, loving, powerful beings that it would take these blocks to prevent us from getting to where we want to go. That's my opinion of it.
Wow. Peter, I gotta say, this has been an amazing session talking to you. It's been fantastic. I definitely would like to have you back on to continue this, especially on my YouTube channel, Myth Mentality, because there's so much more to unpack there. Doing a live or doing a video, obviously.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But what I will say, and I'll let you have the last word after this, is I just want to let the audience know what I have found as this, what the subconscious kind of is for me, and I would think the subconscious is this foreground of just randomness, this looseness, but not meaninglessness, right? I think there's so much meaning in the subconscious, and there's so much that we as humans store there and have stored. There's some evidence that we inherit through our genetics, memories, emotions, trauma from the past.
Yep.
And
correct.
So a lot of reasons why you may find that, I look like my great-great-grandfather, but I don't look like anybody in between. Or you may find that I feel a kinship with this ancestor and I don't know why. Or you may find that, that a lot of the things that plague you are straight from your parents, but you might be even been adopted, but it's like you're taking on the look and the feel and everything of the parents that adopt you, right? We always have to be open-minded about, there are a lot of unknown unknowns, and there are a lot of things we don't understand about life. But if we look at it as a fun exercise to really engage that unknown and say things like hypnosis, psychology, myth, archetypes, can all help us be better selves, then I think we will be able to defeat whatever is out there using these things as the psyop, right? As the negative.
Yep.
Because it's only a small group of people. It's a
Yes.
small group of people that really, it's like if they've been moving a boulder, if they're like Sisyphus moving a boulder, if that boulder decides not to move one day, it's going downhill.
Yeah,
Right? So
that's true.
we are that boulder. We got to make that decision to use best practices. And I definitely think what you do is a part of that.
Oh, thank you. I've really appreciated today as well. It's been great to meet you.
Yes. So do you have any last words for our audience? Or
I guess the last word would just piggyback on what I said a few moments ago, and that is, I think every human being has this inner magnificence, is what I would call it, this inner light. And that if you could imagine a light with windows that have dirt or soot on them, it doesn't mean the light's not powerful. It's just not penetrating the light because the windows are dirty. And that if you metaphorically clean those windows, which in my vernacular would be, heal the wounds of the past, because they've taken over as kind of illusions that you're not good enough, illusions that you don't deserve what it is you want, that kind of thing.
right.
The fear, all that stuff. But to hold on to that concept that you are already magnificent. You don't need a really nice car in order to express the magnificent or be famous or have arm candy walking down the street with you. All that stuff is great, but you don't need that to find the magnificence. And just for a moment to divert back to relationships, I think most of us are programmed that if we find the right person, then we'll feel love. And that's not how it works, in my opinion. In my opinion, the love's already inside of you.
Right.
And you know that because when you're first in love with your beloved, you feel it all, but he or she is not injecting you with oxytocin and dopamine.
Right.
You're releasing it because certain mental conditions have been met. Oh, he's looking at me with all this love. Oh, she touches me and feels so good inside. She's so beautiful. He's so handsome. Whatever it is. Gave me flowers, took me to... these are all just triggers.
Right.
That love is living inside of you. And if that person is not present in your life right now, if they leave because they don't want to be with you anymore, or they cheat on you, or they sadly pass away, they're not taking the love with them. It's yours. No one can take it from you. Only you can obscure it.
Wow. Well, you've certainly given me a lot to think about. I mean, I feel like I've been your, I don't know if you can say patient or client, but I feel like I've been your client for the past 45 minutes as well. And it's been very enjoyable. And I really, really thank you. Thank you so much. Like I said on the podcast, we're better when we train together. Like, share, and subscribe. Please do, to our fans in all over the world, in Germany and Chile. We have a big following. And Chile, I found interesting. I don't speak in Spanish, but in the United States, thank you. And again, from Peter McLaughlin and Justin Williams, thank you, and tune in.